Welcome back to the Popped Podcast, where we uncover real, raw, and rarely discussed truths about pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and beyond. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Muery, prenatal and postpartum chiropractor, birth doula, and founder of Move Moms at Move Chiropractic Boulder. I have talked about this topic in a completely different way many episodes back. We talked about carrying babies and how we are carrying mammals as humans and how important it is to hold and carry your baby, and they're not just trying to manipulate you or just want to be held all the time. That's genuinely part of their biology. They want to be held. We are carrying mammals. We are meant to be carried and guided through a long portion of our early lives in comparison to other mammals. So today we're going to look at the other half of this topic, which is baby spending time on the floor. So this isn't to take away from everything that I said about carrying baby. This is just the other side of not carrying baby and what we should be doing with baby when we're not holding them or when we're not carrying them. And so this episode is all about the floor and utilizing the floor to really ground baby for them to learn and get to know their environment and actually start growing. Let's dive into it. Why the floor is the MVP. Gravity, movement, and exploration are all recipe for growth and development for baby on the floor. The floor is the original baby gym. There's no batteries, there's no lights, there's no overstimulation. It's just your baby, their body, gravity, doing what they're supposed to do. Babies don't need to be taught how to move. They just need the right environment to explore safely and naturally. Now, when babies don't have the right environment to explore safely and naturally, they tend to miss certain developmental milestones. And then moms end up bringing baby to Dr. Emily, and Dr. Emily is then trying to reintegrate different reflexes or different ways of movement that they've missed. And essentially, I'm trying to teach them how to use their body from places that they've missed that teaching or that exploration or that growth. So if baby has the right environment and feels safe and can explore and really start to develop their different movement patterns and their different reflexes and integrate them well, then a lot of times Dr. Emily doesn't have to teach babies how to crawl, walk, roll over, push their hips back to get started for crawling. There's lots of different small things that I end up working with babies, which I love working with babies, and I love integrating all of these reflexes and new things that they didn't get a chance to develop. But I want to give you the opportunity to start integrating some of these things earlier on so that you're not a stressed out mama later on. How floor time helps babies. I'll get deeper into this throughout the episode, but just brief overview. We have develop head control by lifting, turning, and orienting against gravity. You'll notice babies often drop their heads early on just because their necks are tired. They don't have a ton of muscle endurance in their bodies to support all these movements. That's why we do these in short bouts of time, and they slowly develop it over time. Practice rolling as they shift weight and twist their trunk. So this also includes some core engagement, learning how to use their core to actually rotate, not just sit up or lay back or whatever it is that we see babies somewhat engage their core in that rolling over. You don't always see the core engage, but that's actually what's happening. So that rolling over phase, we want to make sure that the core can engage to both the right and the left side. We also have coordinate vision and movement by tracking you or a toy. Again, I'll get deeper into this, but them being able just to be on the floor, tracking movement, tracking coordination with their eyes is going to help them with their visual development, but also with that spinal support muscle development in the endurance in those spinal support muscles to support their head up, to have head control, to look to the right, to move their head for breastfeeding, whatever it is. I also have prepare for crawling, which is essential for cross-body coordination. Babies gotta learn to crawl, right? A lot of the front of their bodies are really soft and cartilaginous. As they start to develop, they will become more bony in structure, specifically their knees. If you feel babies where you would expect to feel a kneecap on a baby, you won't feel a kneecap for many months because that kneecap is not bony yet. It's cartilaginous, so it's really soft and spongy so that babies can be on the floor more frequently. If you try to be on the floor with your baby as often as they are on your hands and knees, you'll find quickly that your knees start to get bruised because we have bony knees, so that bony pressure is putting more pressure onto our soft tissues in and around, where for babies, that spongy softness allows them to explore, grow, and actually learn how to crawl. Crawling itself helps us learn our cross-crawl coordination, and it's actually a really clear identifier for early childhood educators on children's ability to read, to write, to actually learn and comprehend information in school. So crawling is not just for crawling. It really does give us indicators for the rest of baby's life and their learning capabilities. Lastly, I have activate, actually I have two more. Activate the vestibular system, balance spatial orientation, and proprioception, knowing where their body is in space. So we've talked about this before. Those first 3 months immediately postpartum, baby is not aware that their body is separate than mom's body. So it is very confusing for them to be separated from mom. That's, as we talk about how long babies should be on the floor, being spending time during tummy time, you'll see that in those first couple months, it's not very much time, and you can be around baby, or they can even be on you while you're doing this tummy time. But these first couple of months, while we're activating their proprioception, they're learning and starting to understand that their body is separate from your body. When they move and grasp something and they grab it, they're learning, their body is starting to learn what it feels like to actually grasp something on their own, to see something, touch something, and hold it and pull it back to them. That proprioceptive learning often happens on the floor. Last, I have integrate primitive reflexes, which builds foundation for voluntary movement. So integrating primitive reflexes doesn't mean that they utilize those reflexes more and more. A lot of times it means those reflexes that keep them safe or help them alert you for XYZ, those reflexes often integrate or disappear into the body as different patterns, and then we hold on to them throughout the rest of our lives. So if certain patterns don't integrate properly, we have reflexes that stick around. So reflexes that the floor time helps integrate. We have the TLR. I really don't know how to say this one very well, but I'm going to try anyways. Tonic labyrinthine reflex. What is this for? It's when baby is on their tummy or their back and their body naturally extends or flexes in response to their head position. Why it matters is it helps develop their head control and postural stability. How floor time helps: tummy time and rolling strengthen the neck and core muscles, helping baby gain control over these automatic responses. We have asymmetrical tonic neck reflex. I've talked about this a lot before. The fencer stance, when baby's head is turned one way, their arm and leg on that same side will extend, and on the opposite side, they will flex or bend up. Why this matters for baby: it assists with their hand-eye coordination early on, and it must integrate for bilateral movement like crawling. But if baby happens to start crawling and they haven't integrated this reflex, or it hasn't disappeared, when they start crawling and they look over at you, or you say something or call their name and they look over at you, one side of their body is going to flex up and bend up, and the other side is going to extend. That's not really conducive for crawling, right? We need to have opposites: an opposite arm and opposite leg bent, and opposite arm and opposite leg extended every single time that you crawl. So we want to make sure that reflexes like this integrate well, so that baby has active use of both sides of their body in opposition and not just in a symmetrical fashion. Next, I have the Muery reflex, or the startle reflex. What it is, it's in response to sudden movement or noise. Baby flings arms out and then back in. A lot of times they show this to you at the hospital, the birth space, birth center, home birth, and that it's okay, it's normal. It's baby's startle reflex. Why it matters: it's a protective response, but if it persists, it can lead to hypersensitivity or poor self-regulation. How floor time helps: gentle movement and freedom of motion help regulate sensory input and soothe the nervous system. Learning that something happened, a big sound or something, oh my gosh, you pick something up. For baby, if they pick something up like a toy and then they drop it and it's loud and they kind of have that reflex, but they remind themselves they're on the floor, their body starts to integrate, you're safe, nothing else has happened, you weren't asleep and then woken up. Those small things start to help baby integrate that startle reflex, so it's not as extensive or abrasive to them in the middle of the night, where they're able to actually soothe themselves back to sleep. Next, I have the palmar grasp reflex. What it is: baby grabs when their palm is touched. Why it matters: so obviously they're on the floor. A lot of times, whether there's toys on the floor or not, if there's no toys on the floor and the floor is plain, they're going to hit the floor and try to grasp. They're going to start doing this. This movement, even though they're not grabbing anything, is actually going to help them practice for crawling. We need to be able to feel the floor when we crawl and use our hands to actually push us to the next step in the crawl. This palmar grasp reflex isn't just for grabbing their milk or their bottle or a glass of water, a toy. It is also to help them actually start to crawl and have proprioception on their hands when they're crawling, to know when it's safe to take their next step, or if there's something sharp, or if we're crawling now into rocks instead of grass, whatever it is. This palmar grasp really allows babies to practice for crawling and feel more proprioceptive through their hands. Spinal galant reflex. What it is when you stroke one side of baby's lower back, it should cause the baby to arch towards that side or wiggle their hips. This should integrate or disappear around 3 to 6 months. Why it matters: this movement assists with birth. So this is a movement that you may never really get to totally see on the outside of pregnancy if it integrates very quickly. Some babies it does, and you don't notice it very much. Most babies, you see the arching more than you see the wiggling of the hips, just because their bodies are little, and when they get that little arch, the wiggle is kind of included in that arch. Why it matters: we said it assists with birth. They're going to use, every time their back is stroked through the birth canal, it's going to help them wiggle or arch their back as they maneuver down. But if it's retained, it can lead to fidgeting or prolonged bedwetting past the age that you would expect bedwetting. How floor time helps: crawling and full body movement help balance out the spinal responses and integrate this reflex. Just stroking the back to get that low back to arch isn't always enough for baby. We want to make sure that their body's integrating where they can access an arch or a flexion of their low back at any point. When babies lay flat, they're not just laying around. They're really experimenting, especially on the floor. Every single wiggle, reach, and pivot is their brain working in action. It is actively developing. It's actively growing brain matter. It's actively creating gray matter and wrinkles in their gray matter so that they can learn this movement, retain it, and then continue to develop it. Floor time builds body awareness, which leads to emotional regulation, focus, and even learning later on, such as reading, writing, all the fun things that we learn as kids. So here's a little reframe for my mamas who are learning to experiment more with the floor. You might feel like you are doing nothing when your baby is on the floor, but your baby's nervous system is doing everything. It's learning, it's growing, it's developing, it's integrating, it's becoming more stable. Get baby on the floor. I know it's not always easy, but you can definitely be on the floor with them. That's what we're going to talk about more. What happens in a container? I talk about containers a lot. I talk about them in the office. I talk about them out of the office, where they're bogging down our entire society, probably for the last 20 to 50 years. So what is container baby syndrome? Because it sounds intense, it's very real, and it's happening all over the US. Let's talk about it. But let me start by saying containers are not evil. I am not saying you should get rid of all the containers. They are tools, and just like any other tool, it's about how you use them and how often you use them that allows it to be a tool or turn into a habit, an unnecessary, unpleasant, negative connotation or pattern within baby or mom. So what is a container? Bouncers, swings, loungers, car seats outside of travel, activity centers, even some baby chairs or sleeping pods. Anything that restricts baby's ability to move freely or interact with gravity is considered a container. Again, containers are not evil. I am just simply saying how we use them, how often we use them is really important. So the main issue is overuse. Just like I said, short periods are fine and often necessary, but when baby spends hours a day in a container, here's where we start meeting some problems. We're starting to limit core activation. They're being held upright in a position instead of working to hold themselves up. We have sensory feedback. We're limiting their sensory feedback. So from the ground, they can't feel or respond to gravity. They can't start to experience shock absorption or what it feels like to hit or touch the ground. And then we're also limiting the natural progression of motor skills. They're in positions that they haven't earned yet. Let me say that again. They are being put in positions that they have not earned yet. as humans, we earn different positions as our bodies grow and develop in ability to support our head and nervous system. When we put ourselves in positions that we haven't earned yet, we start to put a lot of stress on our nervous system. Let me give you a really easy example. I am no gymnast, but if I put myself in a back bend where my feet are on the ground, my hands are on the ground, and I'm doing a huge arch with my body, and then I try to walk my hands and make myself into a big ball, but my tummy's all stretched out, like just a crazy gymnastics position that I've never done before. That's going to start putting a lot of stress on my body because my body has not developed that amount of space, stretch, mobility in segments and muscles and ligaments. It's going to put a lot of stress not only on the structures of my body, but also my nervous system. The same thing happens when we put baby in a chair or a bouncer where they don't have the control to support their head or support their trunk very comfortably. They're then putting a lot of pressure, a lot of compression on their structures in their body because there's no muscular support to support them upwards towards gravity. We are starting to limit their ability to adapt, grow, and be able to be in those positions comfortably because they haven't earned the positions that we've put them in yet. Containers often place babies in positions their bodies haven't yet developed the strength or the stability to get into on their own. Like upright sitting or standing, it looks super cute, but their nervous system hasn't caught up yet. It's not ready to do those things. So let's talk about posture and how this is really a big player of why containers aren't a great idea to keep baby in for hours on end. Babies don't learn posture. They build it from the ground up. Posture is not learned, it is built from very, very specific milestones. And milestones do not have to be a single moment in time. Milestones can be a week, it can be a month, it can be growth over time. So when I'm saying milestones, I don't want you to think about a very singular instance in time. I want you to think about bigger things that babies are learning. Like they might roll over one day and it might take them 3 more days to get back to rolling over. We're in the process of making that milestone, if that makes sense. Good posture begins with core strength, hip and shoulder stability, and balance and reflex integration. When babies are placed upright too soon, like they're in a seat or a position they haven't earned yet, like I just said, their muscles aren't ready to support that position, so they may slump or arch their backs unnaturally. They may compensate with tension in other areas like their neck, jaw, or low back, and they might skip over foundational movements that posture is built on, like tummy time or crawling. These small milestones that I'm talking about, or rather big milestones, tummy time, crawling. As your baby starts to prepare to crawl, crawling itself, because you're on all fours and your neck has to look up, that position alone is actually what creates the cervical or the neck curvature that you're supposed to have in your normal posture. Babies, when they come out of the womb, they don't have curves in their spine. As adults, you should have 4 natural postural curves throughout your spine. Babies don't have these curves. They develop these curves through different milestones. Crawling is a very long milestone, but throughout the crawling phase, baby is developing their neck curvature in their low back. When they pop their hips back, that curvature is going to start working on that low back curvature. When they push their shoulders back, that's going to start working on that upper back curvature. Every small movement that baby is learning, even up to the point where they're sitting and supporting their head, they're starting to shape and form their different postural curves throughout their spine, the curves that are going to support their spine throughout the rest of their life. Consequences of overuse. Since we're talking about overuse, just like I talked about, we have delayed milestones, not because they're behind, but because they just haven't been given a chance to try. This is what I see the most frequent in the office, and this is why I'm talking about it, this very specific point. A lot of times babies are not slow. They are not behind. Every single one of your babies is very special and perfect and unique. But a lot of times babies aren't special and they don't need, or they can't figure out how to crawl, or they can't figure out how to walk. A lot of times they're just missing very, very specific milestones that they haven't had a chance to achieve. A lot of times it's because we pick up babies when they start crying, but sometimes they're crying through difficult developmental times. If you are learning how to do the splits, you might one day get so far down into your splits that you're uncomfortable, you want to cry, this is not comfy, there's a lot of tension in your hips and your muscles are stretching and you might want to cry, but you know that you're growing. Babies, as they're trying to learn these different milestones, whether it's popping their hips back or taking that first step where they crawl or trying to roll over, they might start crying through the frustration and the triumph or the trying of trying to do an action. That trying and stress and frustration is all good. We all develop and grow through frustration and hard times. But a lot of times we hear babies start crying and the instinct is to go pick baby up. Baby's had enough, they're ready to be picked up. So sometimes right before baby's about to overcome small milestones, they give a cue or they are expressing a cue to mom that they need to be picked up and they miss that chance for that milestone. And sometimes that happens very, very frequently. And it becomes this routine where mom's like, I know I can put baby down for 10 minutes and then they're going to start crying. Well, maybe at that 10-minute mark, every time baby's just about to roll over or push their hips back and we're picking baby up so then they don't roll over or they don't push their hips back and we're missing that opportunity for them to push through and actually accomplish something new in their nervous system. That is not always the case, but oftentimes that is what I see, specifically with crawling, walking, and rolling over. Consequences of overuse. I have a couple more. Increased tension in the neck, jaw, shoulders, and low back. Then I have plagiocephaly, flat spots due to pressure on the back of head. I've seen a lot of memes made about this on Instagram, Facebook. You can always tell when a baby wasn't held or when a baby was held too much, if their head is super round or if their head has flat spots. Head shape is not always determined on how much or how little a baby is put down. However, sometimes this is absolutely true, especially if baby has certain tension patterns and their head is in one specific spot every single time that they're laying on their back or laying on the floor. Plagiocephaly is flat spots due to pressure on the back of the head, sometimes on the sides as well. Then we have underdeveloped core and shoulder girdle strength, which are key for crawling posture and coordination, especially walking. Even when babies get to the point where they can stand and put pressure into their ankles and knees, sometimes that core stability is so off or so askew that they can't stay standing for more than a couple minutes. That's where babies start to learn to engage their core and actually utilize their core to move their legs without falling over. Some unique reframes. I have think about containers like baby high heels. They're fine for a cute moment, but not for everyday wear. Yes, for a short minute, maybe you're making lunch or you're making dinner and baby needs you need a second to have your hands free where you cannot keep your eyes on baby every second. That's a good chance to put them in a bouncer, put them in a container for a short time. If you're not doing anything, if you have the availability just to be on the ground or hold them or whatever it is, spending more time outside of those containers, whether it's being held or being on the floor, is more ideal, especially in that first year, 2 years of life. How to make floor time work for you. You do not need to schedule floor time. You just need to invite it every so often, especially when you don't know what to do. It's a great time to get on the floor. If you would normally start playing at this time, get on the floor. So let's be real. If you have a baby, plenty of things for you guys to do throughout the day. You probably don't need to add anything onto your to-do list. But the beauty of floor time is that it doesn't need to be structured or perfect. It really just needs to be possible. It needs to be invited into your space, into your daily activities frequently. Real life tips that work. Start simple. A firm surface with a thin rug or mat is all you need. You do not need a fancy playpen, fancy play mat, or a fancy baby mat. Your rug and the floor is plenty. Use your body. Tummy time can be on your chest, across your lap, or draped over your legs, especially if baby is little. Involve your baby in your rhythm. Folding laundry. Put baby next to you on the floor. Let them explore for a little bit. You'll be able to keep your eyes on them and you'll be able to get a task done at the same time. If you happen to be responding to some emails or a couple text messages, put baby on the floor. Give them a toy. Ideally, they're not looking at your phone with you, but you can still have baby next to you on the floor. They don't need to be in a bouncer. They don't need to be in their seat or their play. I'm trying to think of another word for the play seat other than the bouncer, but I know you know what I'm talking about. It's big plastic circle with a nice soft seat. You put baby in the middle of the seat. They can spin around. There's something for their feet on the bottom. That is what I'm talking about. They don't need to be in something like that. They don't need to be in the baby Bajorn bouncer that's sitting back and bouncing for an hour while you're responding to emails. Short periods of time in the containers, longer periods of time with you doing other tasks outside of the containers is more ideal. Low stimulation toys. Add black and white cards, unbreakable mirrors, or soft textured items to invite exploration without overstimulation. Babies do not need the high noise, lots of lights, moving toys to keep their attention or give them something to do. Very, very simple toys. If you start simple, they only know simple. So if you start with really simple toys like the black and white cards or those, it's really just like a mini book. Sometimes there's red in it. There's usually the unbreakable mirrors, a soft mirror, just something to look at. That is plenty for baby to explore. They do not need all the sounds, all the noise makers and lights and moving machines. Meet pretty much any baby ever or talk to their parent. They'll tell you that their favorite toy is the TV remote or the car keys, something that's not actually a toy. Okay, you guys, I'm super excited about this new sponsor because it's somebody I've actually been working with for a while now called The Final Punctuation. It's a female-owned, one-woman editing and proofreading service. Her name is Carrie, and she has completely changed how confident I feel putting my words into the world. She's helped me with everything from my brochures to my doula contracts to small marketing things. And not only is her turnaround time incredible, but she helps you to understand the why behind her edits. She sees things that I would have never caught and somehow keeps your voice intact while making everything stronger, cleaner, and clearer. She works with all kinds of creators from bloggers, podcasters, to small business owners, marketing folks, and even students. Anyone putting their words out into the world. And if you've ever posted something and noticed a typo after, you know how it feels. One tiny error can totally kill that first impression. In fact, stats show that only one typo can increase bounce rates by up to 85%, and grammar mistakes turn away nearly 60% of readers. And I know what you're thinking about AI. Can it just take care of all my grammar mechanics? AI still struggles with tone, nuance, and accuracy, which is not a great combo if you're trying to earn trust. So if you're writing anything from podcasts to brochures, website copy, marketing materials, let Carrie take a look at it. Visit thefinalpunctuation.com to submit a request for any project and tell her that you're a Popped Podcast listener for 15% off your first order. That's thefinalpunctuation.com. Now let's get back to the episode. How much floor time? By age, everybody's different. I realize that this is a very soft recommendation. These are not the standards or the specific standard for every single baby, for every single parent or family. This is not a one size fits all. You will know what your baby needs and how much they can endure on the floor. And if you don't, go ask for some help. I'm always there to help moms. You can always DM me or come into the office, and I'm happy to help you figure out what floor time best looks like for your baby. Newborn, 0 to 2 months. Start with a few minutes at a time, a few times a day. Usually after diaper changes, bottle feeds, or naps when they have a little bit more energy and they're usually a little bit more content. We want to have gentle exposure, not forcing duration. We just want to start exposing them to tummy time and floor time, what that looks like and feels like. Then we have 2 to 4 months. We're aiming for 3 to 5 minutes of tummy time a few times a day, gradually increasing that. Again, you should know and you should be able to identify, oh, look, we can hang out here for 5 more minutes, or we can hang out here for a couple more minutes, whatever it is. Or baby's had enough today. They didn't get a great night of sleep. Maybe we don't need to push extra tummy time today. 5+ months, we have babies begin tolerating and enjoying longer stretches on the floor. Once they start rolling, pivoting, pushing up, floor time becomes active play. They're actually having fun at this point on the ground. So maybe many babies will spend 30+ minutes at a time exploring, especially if they're engaged with toys, mirrors, or watching you nearby. If you happen to be playing with them, usually this is extended much, much, much longer. Mobile infants, 7 to 9 months, maybe to 12 months. I know everybody's different. So when I'm saying mobile infants, don't think this means just crawling or just walking. It's just towards the end when we're getting a little bit more mobile. baby may be crawling, scooting, or beginning to pull to stand. This is a high movement stage. This is when floor time should be most frequent and most unscripted. It should be the most free baby feels. Freedom in the safe zone. We want to rotate toys, let baby lead the experience in our space, and limit time in restrictive seats, just like we're doing for the rest. Our goal is 1 to 2 hours of active floor play per day. Broken up throughout the day is totally fine. Some babies just go for it and they're playing for an hour to 2 hours right when they wake up in the morning. As long as they're getting a lot of active floor time play, we're good to go. It doesn't have to be 1 hour at a time. It can be broken up into small spurts throughout the day. Approaching walking. This is the last one I have. 10 to 12 months. Floor time supports cruising, climbing, squatting, and early standing. Avoid keeping baby in the walking toys. Specifically what I was talking about earlier with the soft seat where their feet go through and there's plastic around. Even if they can move that toy, it's so supportive for their body that their body's not actually learning how to support itself for those maneuvers. So we want to get babies out of the walking toys and practicing walking on their own with their own bodily support. Balance your floor time with baby wearing. Like I said all the way at the beginning of this episode, this does not mean baby wearing is bad. I'm not going back on my words or what I said in a really early episode about baby wearing, because that is just as important. But now you can balance your baby wearing with floor time instead of container time. Baby wearing is beautiful for bonding, regulation, and keeping baby close, but it's still a passive position. If you're baby wearing all the time, baby's in a passive position all the time. As awesome as it is to get baby comfortable with baby wearing and you start to figure out your new routine and you can do things while you're wearing baby, don't forget that baby needs time out of that carrier, because if they're in the passive position, they aren't going to develop any stability or structure throughout their body. Realistically, your body probably can't carry your baby all day long. So when it starts to get tired, great, take baby out. Let's have some floor time. Let's explore the floor and have bonding on the floor, not so held and caring. The floor is a sensory playground. Development isn't just about movement, it's about how baby learns to sense and interpret the world around them. When we think about baby development, we often picture gross motor skills like rolling, crawling, walking, all three that I've been talking about this whole episode. But what fuels those movements? The senses, and the floor is where the senses come alive. The floor offers constant sensory input like tactile, visual, auditory, vestibular, and proprioception. We talked about these at the beginning, but tactile input, different textures like the rug, blanket, or skin stimulate touch receptors and help baby to map their own body. Visual input, looking around while baby is laying on their back or their tummy, helps with depth perception, peripheral vision, eye tracking, and focus. Auditory input, on the floor, baby hears sounds from different directions, distances, footsteps, voices, background noise, all of which help build their auditory processing skills. Then we have vestibular input. Every time baby shifts their head or body, the inner ear responds, helping baby to learn balance and spatial orientation. Last, I have proprioception. Pressing against the floor gives feedback about limb position and pressure, crucial for motor planning and body awareness. As baby starts to prepare to coordinate different body movements to get that toy over there or to crawl closer to mom, they have to start coordinating how their body's actually going to get to those positions or actually move. This is where they start to learn it on the floor, when they actually grow and develop and start to explore the floor, when they have time to grow, develop, and explore. The floor is baby's first sensory gym. No toys are required. Like I said before, you don't need a ton of toys. Why this matters: sensory input builds a foundation for attention, what to notice. It helps build the foundation for self-regulation, or how to calm yourself or respond to certain situations. Motor planning, how to coordinate movement like crawling, walking, pressing the hips up, grabbing a toy, getting closer to mom. Language and social development, how to tune into voices, faces, and rhythm. A baby who rolls to reach to a toy is also strengthening their visual tracking, their spatial awareness, and their touch response all in one movement. Brain wiring starts on the floor. Many motor skills aren't just physical milestones. They are actual building blocks for how your baby thinks, focuses, and learns later on in life. It's easy to see rolling, crawling, standing, reaching as small or just purely physical adaptations or growth milestones, but these movements are actually how the body is going to integrate and organize all movements, all processes for future movement exploration, for future processing, for future conversations, for future interaction. The floor gives you everything. So movement equals brain development. Every time that your baby lifts their head, shifts their weight, reaches across their midline, rolls over or pivots, they are strengthening neural pathways to connect both sides of their brain. These physical patterns are essential for reading and writing, focus and attention, emotional regulation, and problem solving and sequencing. The reading and writing I always think is so interesting. The cross crawl pattern is the direct indicator for a child's ability to read and continue developing their reading skills. So in kindergarten, in the majority of the United States, in public schools, in kindergarten, actually, I don't know if they do this in private schools, so I take that back. I just know that this happens in kindergarten to some degree. Kindergartners will be tested with this really easy physical test where they stand and they have their hands out in front of them and they have to tap their right hand across to their left knee and pick up their left knee and tap the knee to their hand. So it's just basically like marching in place with tapping your opposite knee at the same time. This cross crawl pattern, the ability to actually orient and organize that movement to have the opposition, helps teachers, I wouldn't say diagnose, but decide or help pivot where children need help learning and if their ability or where their reading ability stands at that moment. If kids aren't able to do that cross crawl pattern, it's telling teachers that as a child reads left to right across a page, it's going to be really difficult for them to hook back to the next line on that left side of the page to then read again left to right. That hook from right to left, that is a cross crawl pattern that your brain must have from physical cross crawl patterns. That is just one of the very many things that your baby learns on the floor that helps them organize and integrate other information later on in life. It seems so simple, but that right hook of reading, how often do you read and lose your space or lose your place because you weren't able to rehook? Me, I do it all the time. It's really hard for me to hook and find that spot on the other side. Well, if you look back at my childhood development, my parents worked. They both worked full-time jobs. And so I was at daycare a lot. Well, at a daycare with lots of other kids, I was in a bouncer a lot. Again, nothing wrong with how my parents raised me. I love them, and how I was raised was who I am and made me who I am today. But we've all learned from different things, and I continue to teach my parents things that I learned. Being in that bouncer might have taken just a little bit of that cross crawl pattern because my crawling wasn't as long of a period before I was able to walk. I wasn't crawling for very long before walking because I had so many bouncers or containers to help me get to walking before I really went through a process of crawling. So that cross crawl pattern is a little confusing for me. I used to be a dancer and I used to be super great at dancing, but that's where I got all my coordination was through dance movements. Like that made sense to me. If you took me outside of dance, you would see me tripping left and right and banging my knee and falling off bikes. And my mom would always say, your coordination and grace is learned in dance, but not practiced in real life. And that is so true for me. I'm very clumsy because I don't have a great cross crawl pattern. Again, something I work on throughout my whole life. But you can notice how even in adults, there's still cross crawl patterns that weren't integrated or weren't corrected early on in life that affect them now. Again, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm still doing great. But I could have a little bit better of a reading pattern when I read. So moving on to what happens in a child's body without some of these things other than everything I just talked about. If babies skip early movement stages like crawling or floor exploration, they start to struggle with sitting still, organizing thoughts, regulating emotions, and coordinating complex tasks. Those like tying shoes or writing, fine motor skills. We don't need to rush babies into the next milestone. We need to give them the room to repeat and refine the one that they are in. When babies finally start, if I ever say that, I'm like, they finally started crawling. If babies finally start crawling, I'm not trying to get them to walk as soon as possible. We need to now explore crawling for as long as we need to explore crawling. If it takes longer for your babies to hit certain milestones, don't try to rush to that next milestone. Take time in the milestone that you're in and let them really get confident and comfortable in that milestone before moving on to the next one. Yes, sometimes they will push themselves into that next milestone, but you are the one that can encourage and bring them back to crawling, floor exploration, whatever it is. I often show moms, do you get on the floor? Like, you need to be crawling around your home. Get some knee pads on, especially if you have wood floors, and crawl around. It's going to show your baby, oh my gosh, I want to crawl. Babies want to do what mom wants to do. So if mom's always walking and baby's trying to now walk, or if baby has older siblings, I see this a lot with older siblings, like more than 5 years older than them. They see that older sibling walking and cruising around all the time. And a lot of times those babies don't want to crawl because they see their sibling walking. They want to move as quick as their sibling, and so they're not interested in crawling. I encourage parents, everybody get on the floor. Let's all crawl around. Let's all play and crawl around at the same time, because baby's going to start to emulate what they see. And if they see you guys crawling, they're going to start to crawl. Independent play is not neglect. It's necessary. Floor time fosters healthy independence where baby explores while knowing that you're near, especially being able to hear you moving around in the kitchen or your footsteps or you talking. As long as they can hear and know that you are near, and realistically, you're probably near because your baby's not on you and you need to be watching your baby, they get to actually start exploring. And so babies start to develop focus from uninterrupted observation. They start to develop persistence from trying, failing, and trying again. Babies start to develop self-regulation, learning what their body can do without external input. And babies start to develop trust in their environment because it's safe, predictable, and consistent. All of these things, babies are getting to experience this and explore this every single time that they spend time on the floor. If your baby's having what I would call a moment, they are crying, they are very expressive, they are not happy, maybe don't put them on the floor. But unless that's what you think they're asking for, if that's what they're cueing you to, maybe that's what they need. But a lot of times we want to put baby on the floor when they're content, when they're happy, when they have the space to explore. If they're already overdrawn from the day or not a great night of sleep, they're probably not going to have a great experience on the floor. It doesn't mean that they won't learn or develop some of these things that we've talked about, but we want to make sure that when we're encouraging development and growth, that we're in a good space to develop and grow. If we're already stressed out or already stretched thin from the day, it's not usually a great opportunity for growth and development. You don't need to perform. You can sit nearby, fold laundry, sip coffee, or just be. You are the anchor. You are the home base. Baby is the explorer. The more that they can start to understand that you are the home base and you aren't just going to put them down and disappear, if you could just stay near, they're going to feel so comfortable to explore and to have this growth and development on the floor. They won't be so distraught when you put them down, especially when you can be present. When we put babies down and then we're not so present, whether it's on our phones or answering emails or on the computer, it can be a little bit more jarring because baby doesn't know that your intention or attention is in and around their bubble. And so their safety isn't as easy to access. So their growth and development isn't as easy to access. So the more that you can be present, the safer they're going to feel, the more that they're actually going to start to encourage their own bodies to develop, grow, try all the new things. Babies don't need consistent narration, noise, or stimulation. What they need is the opportunity to lead you in a secure base. Just like I said, being that home base allows babies to feel safe. But if you're the home base without saying, go get that toy, here's this toy, here's this toy, if you just let them lead and they're showing you different things, they're actually getting to explore, actually getting to develop, actually getting to try. What is it like showing mom a toy? Mom shows me toys all the time. I want to show mom this toy. It starts to become a conversation, because realistically, you are leading your baby through the majority of their life. This is the time that they get to lead you. So let them. They want to play. And how long has it been since you've played? Let your baby lead you back into that childhood-like play, and you get to redevelop all those child play skills with them as they grow. Yes, I realize not all of us, but some of us work, and you don't have all the time in the world to do this floor time every single day. Find some time, whether it's the morning before you go to work or when you get home or wherever you can, to find some of this interactive play. It's achievable. I truly believe that this is achievable even for working moms who don't get to stay home and try this stuff out all day long. I do still think 5 to 10 minutes of floor time exploration, feeling safe, being around mom, but getting that independent play can be so beneficial for these babies, all babies. And if you feel like your baby is getting bored, they're not. Boredom isn't bad. It is the space where curiosity is birthed. So let babies be bored. They will become curious. They'll start getting more interested. They're actually going to start to create something to play with. Babies don't just get bored. We as humans experience life and then we don't do things, and that's when we get bored. Babies don't usually get bored. So put them on the floor. They will figure out and start to become curious of other things. And when they become curious, if they can't satisfy or fulfill that curiosity, they're going to cue you and let you know, like, what is that thing over there? Like, I want to be picked up. Whatever it is that they're trying to cue you or explore, they'll let you know. Being present doesn't always mean that you have to be active. So like I just said, you don't have to be on the floor playing with them, but you also don't need to be on your phone or on your computer. You can just be present and sit there and watch and let your baby be. It might be a little bit more difficult, and it might take you a while to learn how to slow down because we're such fast-paced humans in this society and in this day and age. But let baby slow you down. Let baby show you how they want to explore. And if you can just be present in their presence, you're mixing up a recipe for great baby development. I hope what you get from this episode today is that you do not need all the gear. You do not need all the toys. You do not need all of the containers and baby apparatuses for them to be comfortable in your bedroom, in your office, in your living room, in your kitchen. They need space. They need time and space to explore the floor. They really don't need much more than the floor. They need time and a chance to try. When we don't give babies a chance because we pick them up too much, or we carry them too often, or we put them in containers too often, they don't even get a chance to gain these awesome milestones that are gained from being on the floor doing almost nothing, or what seemingly looks like nothing, but we know underneath is doing a lot. Their nervous systems are learning so much. They're absorbing so much. They are integrating and learning and experiencing and growing all at the same time, just from simply doing nothing on the floor, just exploring the floor. Space and time on the floor, and you nearby in a grounded, present state is the best thing you can give your baby for baby development. This episode is the best baby hacks, or the best hacks for baby development, and that is exploring the floor. Exploring the floor is where we get to explore milestones and where we get to develop and grow and become humans. Every time that you allow your baby to be on the floor on their own, or look up at the ceiling fan and you are nearby, you are giving them the opportunity to be autonomous. And that is a skill they will take for the rest of their lives. You being able to look at your baby as they independently explore, either on their bellies or on their back on the floor, you will be able to say, I am giving you the space to learn and explore. Please lead me. Please show me what you want to learn, what you want to achieve, and I will guide you if you need me, but I'm going to be right here to support you nonetheless. That gives babies the autonomous experience of exploring and figuring things out for themselves This is a skill that will last them a lifetime. Babies don't need to be in their apparatuses. Please explore this world around us. It's so beautiful. It is constantly giving life. And the more that we give back to it through exploration, development, and growth, the more the earth will give back to us. If you like this episode, please share it with another mama to be or somebody who might be going through this exact experience, trying to decide whether they need this balancer or this swing or this baby apparatus. Send them this episode. Maybe it can help you guys say no, or we'll wait to see if baby actually needs that apparatus, or maybe it'll help you just purchase one other apparatus outside of their car seat. Whatever it is, please share with other mamas to be, your spouse, your partner, your doula, your birth workers, whoever you think would benefit from listening to this episode. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review, or whatever feels good to you. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you have a beautiful week. I'm Dr. Emily, and you've been listening to the Popped Podcast.